Hey, the Chief Meteorologist Matt Wapon alongside a meteorologist Gabe Main. We got a storm that's borderline severe. We figured we'd come on too early as opposed to too late on this one over top of fairly heavily populated portion of the area up here in Lee County. We had kind of some of that hail that's up here between 30,000 feet. This is almost always severe in the form of downburst winds or large hailstones. And you see how it's kind of divided looking here? Not inconceivable that it is in the process of falling to the ground pretty much as we speak. I'll look two-dimensionally on it, give you kind of a better look at where this is. Again, this is on the north side of kind of the Tupelo area, near where it shows Frog Island on there, Beach Springs, honestly not that far away from our location here. Mount Vernon, Herd Town, back toward locations toward Garden Park, kind of in the pathway of this batch of probably damaging winds. Could also be some large hail moving the direction there of Saltillo. So let's track ahead. Speed on this, we'll say about 15 miles per hour. These have not been particularly swift moving thunderstorms. And so I'm going to go ahead and expand all the locations in this here for just a moment. So a lot of fairly small locations in the path of this over the next few minutes here. We'll go ahead and take that again, 15 miles per hour, and expand that out just a little bit more versus where it is right now. So Frog Island will show about 452 for you. Moving there closer to Saltillo, about 504. Blair, we show about 514. And if that holds together a little farther, we'd be looking close to, about the Guntown area, about 519. Pratt's by about 537, 536 there in Baldwin. I think there's probably some wind damage that will come out of this. Let's check a couple different ways to look for that. We'll slide and check our camera there up in Guntown, looking down into this storm. Pretty rough looking thunderstorm on that shot there. Again, no tornadoes expected out of any of the thunderstorms we have out there today, but some strong gusty winds certainly, and maybe some large hailstones a possibility out of these as well. You can see it's kind of an area of inflow into that thunderstorm, but this is probably all that heavy precipitation. Could end up being some large hail as well falling out of that storm. So pretty impressive. And it is knocking out some power in a few locations. That's what our meteorologist Gabe Mayer is watching in our Tupelo studios there. Fairly large area right there.
For sure, especially being below severe limits, and this is where we might be mixing in some of those damaging winds there at the surface. This will be closer to the Belden community moving across I-22. There's 639 outages. This would be west of the airport and clearly west of Tupelo as well. But this is where the storm started to move through, began to strengthen as it moved through the Belden community. We have some video we'll work to show you in just a moment of those gusty winds and of that heavy rainfall. But the fact you're talking 639 outages here over the last 10 minutes or so, that number expected to climb as it moves through northern Lee County and eventually through the Saltillo community. So watching that for you, and even up there towards Guntown as well. I've already told my wife. She said, Gabe, is there any rotation on this? And I said, no rotation. It's just going to be hail. And as long as you're inside, then you're where you need to be.
Yeah, absolutely. That is the truth there. Our meteorologist Gabe Maynard, appreciate that. This is, probably as strong as any of the thunderstorms that we have looked at so far today, and could potentially be producing some damaging wind potential out of it. This is our Tupelo Tower Cam, brought to you again by Mitchell Cunningham and Bowling there, looking toward the north and west. Again, a murky, cloudy sort of shot. We'll look from Boonville, which is a little farther north, might give us more of an overall sort of picture of the thunderstorm. Again, those are the thunderstorms kind of a little west of Boonville as they have popped up there. And we'll go ahead and swing this camera just a little bit, I think, to the left here. Give me just a moment to be able to... Hold on. Oh, this one was swung all the way around. Hold on. We got to reposition. This one got turned around. Okay, there we are. So you can see in the foreground, again, some of the heavy rainfall. And then as we look down southward, they're closer to, say, closer to the Tupelo area. You're looking back through this there to get that thunderstorm fairly strong. 86 degrees in Boonville, feels like 97 at this moment in time. And I'm going to hit that Guntown camera again one more time because it does a pretty effective job. Again, some lightning showing up, and that's pretty decent inflow into this thunderstorm as well on this camera here in Guntown. Moving around a little bit, but the strongest winds have yet to make it all the way up to the Guntown area as we I come back here and look at Mama Justice Doppler radar. The reason we kind of started this, not an official severe thunderstorm warning, but this is in kind of a zone here where it's producing some lightning, some power outages, and it's been holding up some what typically we would say is hail aloft. When it gets hot like this, it becomes a bit of a question as to whether or not it stays hail all the way to the surface, or if it, by the time it falls, if it ends up falling as just really, really heavy rainfall and gusty winds. Going back a couple scans, this is the reason, by the way, why which we kind of started this cut in. You go back here, 438, and if I were to cut into this here, anytime we start getting where we get kind of these little balls of black and gray, like this shows above the surface there as well, this was up around 30,000 feet. That almost always is associated with severe weather. As it falls, and as we look at the last couple of scans here, you'll notice that is probably hitting the ground in the last couple minutes. I don't know that, again, it was officially severe hail. That's where we need, again, you guys to what you're seeing with us to let us know exactly what you're seeing there. Hail in Garden Park subdivision, about dime-sized. So we will, give me a moment here, I'll pass it along to the Weather Service. Okay, pass that right along there, so they're aware of what's going on there as well. Let's see, hailing Birmingham Ridge Road, hailing Birmingham Ridge Road there, so that would be what we're looking at. So at the very least, we know we're getting hail out of that most intense part. How large that hail is still remains a bit of a question there. But I'd say, again, the most intense part there, moving toward Old South Plantation, this would, of course, that'd be Birmingham Ridge Road, where we're getting those hail reports coming in right now as that's lifting northward there along 681 in the direction of the Saltillo area, the west part of Saltillo in particular. A couple ways in which we can show that. We'll check our cameras there with the Mississippi Department of Transportation in Saltillo, and kind of looking at those shots there. Again, the gusty winds approaching. Top of the screen, we actually kind of looking more kind of toward the west and northwest can see what we sometimes call a rain foot. That's the precipitation, the gusty winds kind of running ahead of that thunderstorm there. And honestly, the best shot we have of this at this moment continues to be there in the Guntown area. A pretty rough looking storm as it's healthy enough to produce some strong gusty winds, probably at least some hail. Still working to figure out exactly how large some of that hail is. Jesse there, as you can see next to me in the conversation to the side, saying major hail there in the Frog Island area. Let us know the size when it is safe. Of course, we want to keep you inside at this point and time. No official warning from the folks there at the National Weather Service at this point here on this, but clearly this is a borderline severe thunderstorm at this moment as it lifts northward towards Saltillo. Let's verify the speed. It's going to be just a moment here to make sure that we are good on this over the last, we'll say, 30 minutes. It's right on the doorstep of Saltillo now. Again, this is not a fast mover. These have not been, but that's about 16 miles per hour, which is about as fast as any of our storms have moved today. So we'll get you a track on this toward the north at about 15 to 16 miles per hour or so. Again, not swift, but somewhat impactful as they continue to move through. And then we'll check some other locations. We'll make this a 15-mile track, we'll say, and we will widen this out to sort of encapsulate the strongest portions of that. So there we go. Again, Knights Acres, we're showing it about 458, Saltillo 459. Current time is 453. Looking at Birmingham Ridge area, Birmingham Ridge Baptist Church, I would assume there, well, it shows at 507. That's clearly, it's clicking out a different Birmingham on that one there. Toward Chapelville, about 523. I mentioned Baldwin, about 530. That seems incredibly slow, but I mean, they're not moving quickly, so I shouldn't be too terribly shocked with that. Current time is 4:53. Gabe has pictures of what you are sharing with us here using the Mississippi Live app. Again, back in our studios, Gabe, what are we looking at there?
Well, it looks like the image not coming through with a swift video. I guess everything's not swift this evening, but what you're getting is some of that hail falling to the ground. I'll have to reconnect this, but Jesse was in the chat saying some pretty decent sized hail over there in Frog Island, the neighborhood over there in western Lee County, just west of Saltillo. This is video kind of showing that. There it goes. You see the hail falling on the ground. I would say pea to nickel size based off looking at that video, but yeah, verified reports, that's what we need, kind of a coin next to it or a bottle cap, something that we can use as a frame of reference to see the size of these hailstones. But for sure getting it there in West Lee County.
And that's Frog Island?
Frog Island, yes.
Okay, I went ahead and passed that along to the Weather Service. Appreciate everyone for doing that, and appreciate Jesse for again sharing that with us here on Mississippi Live here just before 5. I think what we're going to do is we're going to start the 5 o'clock broadcast, get that rolling. So stay tuned. More coming up here.
People are like, Bulldog Burger Company. Great burgers. Okay, stop right there. Yes, they make the best burger you ever had. Never smashed, but that's not all. Look at this chicken BLT salad. Just look at it. And a chicken sandwich? No. Come in here. Get closer. It's the chicken sandwich. Wait, where are you taking that? Come back! Oh, that's good.
Mississippi's trusted weather experts. This is Mississippi Live Weather at 5.
Welcome to Mississippi Live Weather 5. I'm Chief Meteorologist Matt Lawpon. You can see a storm that we started our broadcast a little early for a minute ago, producing hail. Still working to figure out exactly how large. In some cases, reporting up to around nickel size, producing some sporadic damage that goes along with that kind of hail. Obviously, trees seeing a beating from that. Power outages also being reported in some locations. Monmouth Justice Doppler radar showing the track of that. Saltillo, we're looking at about 459 for you. So obviously, it is moving in at this point in time, eventually targeting Baldwin by close to 5:30, assuming it only moves the 15 to 16 that it's moving now. Picks up any speed, and obviously, it'll get to some of those locations a little bit quicker here. Let's go ahead and speed that up just in case. We'll say if it even goes 18 miles per hour, you can see that cuts off 5 minutes. So it's a sign that these are slow, and any uptick in speed can make a big difference on how quickly it gets to wherever you're located. I think probably the best way to show this, there's a couple ways. That track I was showing you a moment ago there, probably one good way, but also our camera up there in Guntown. Storms kind of around Guntown, and you could see, looking at this camera, how it's kind of flared out on some of the winds coming out of that storm there as it moves in its direction. I'm going to show a time lapse on this here to give you an idea of kind of what this has looked like over the last little bit as we have been tracking it getting closer to the Guntown area. So give me a moment here to get this kind of popped up behind the scenes. I think this is going to be the right one. Give me a moment as this kind of populates this in here. And again, from time to time, we'll see twisty, turny, interesting things on these cameras. This is not a day where we are going to be talking about a tornado threat out of these storms, but you can see how this definitely had some organization, some inflow. You know, an untrained eye, you might say, well, is that a funnel cloud there? No, that's actually kind of inflow into the thunderstorm is what that is. Sign there. And right at the very end, watch that dark gray kind of flop out of it. That's what we call sometimes a microburst. That's where we get some of those reports of wind damage out of those kind of thunderstorms. And that's the concern there, that perhaps we could have some of that. The other concern is we bring in our meteorologist, Gabe Maynard, again, power outages. And we appreciate everybody for sharing your pictures. Where are we looking at there, Gabe?
Oh, Guntown, you get the visual of that, what looks to be an inflow tail. Jude submitting this photo. This would have been north on 45 looking towards the west, and even in Saltillo, getting some pictures sent in from a few of my neighbors over there in the Saltillo area. Just gnarly looking clouds, really an organized storm, and no shock at all that if we're getting some of that hail report even in Saltillo here in the next few moments. But I would not be shocked if there was some wind damage. I'm hopeful that everything stayed intact, but unfortunately, I think that as you showed it there on the video, it did look like a pretty decent downburst coming from the cloud there to the ground, maybe producing some wind damage in the process. Now, looking at our Weather Watcher photos, those continue to come in of just some of the insane looking clouds. Only damage report that we've had is something we talked about earlier on this afternoon out of Vardaman, but wouldn't be shocked if there's a few trampolines in the area that are ending up like this one over there in Vardaman. Matt, power outage wise, as we look across the region, I want to look specifically at Lee County and update with Tom Bigby. Some sporadic outages. This would be around where we're looking with some of the that inflow tail. This is 40 outages west of Saltillo, west of Highway 45. Honestly, not too far away from the Manor residents there. And then even northwest Tupelo seeing about 10 outages and then a few sporadic reports as well. So we're going to continue to monitor these outages as this moves through Lee County and as that moves through Prentiss County here in the next few moments. So definitely going to be the storm to watch with additional development further south. And we're keeping eyes on all of these storms. This one just having pretty decent organization to it to maybe produce some of the damaging wind gusts, and already getting some of those hail reports as well. We did see a look outside there with the Tupelo camera. This will be looking into the storm. This wasn't, I mean, we're in the storm here in the Tupelo studio, and the bulk of it really more towards the north, the moderate rainfall there in Tupelo. So if you're in downtown Tupelo, not really watching that for you. We're watching as it has that northeast progression through Guntown, through Saltillo. So if you're out and about, I would get to a stopping point on your drive, because even along Highway 45 as we wrap up the workday, going to be dealing with that heavy rainfall, abundant lightning. We're getting up to 100, actually 200 strikes. And the real difference that you're seeing here is the lightning strikes. Whenever those are seeing an increase, that means the storm is getting stronger. And that's showing that organization that we talked about just a moment ago. So from about 19 to 20 strikes, now up to 206. So more of those outages up there towards Guntown, towards Pratt's, towards Baldwin, watching that for you. But we're over Highway 45 now from Baldwin all the way to Saltillo, showing that it's going to be dealing with those heavy downpours, dealing with the lightning, and for some of us, dealing with that hail. Now we're looking for those brighter DBZs, DBZs being our rainfall legend there at the top. So those purples showing up show some higher cloud tops, which could be producing some of that larger hail as well. Earlier on, we're getting those brighter pinks right there towards the towards that neighborhood there west of Tupelo. I believe that was Frog Island, and now as that's moving more towards Saltillo, this is close to Euclatuba Road over there by Euclatuba Baptist, and then as that's moving up 45, we'll see that more towards Guntown and up around Baldwin, seeing some of those heavier downpours once again. So heavy rainfall going to be a big note with this storm. The lightning going to be a big factor, as we've seen earlier on. A lot of those reports are actually from power outages due to those lightning strikes in the area, and we're getting quite a bit of that in northern Lee County. So we're going to watch that as it moves through Saltillo, right along 363 through Unity. The part in Unity, not exactly the main part to mention. It's really going to be west of Saltillo, now moving into Guntown, that we're paying attention to. 348, you can see right there where the Blair community is. That's also an area of concern. Eastern 348, eventually inching closer to Highway 45. And, you know, as we continue to monitor things here behind the scenes, I want to keep an eye on those power outages just in case more of those start to increase, because I, again, expect it as it moves through the Saltillo and Guntown areas here shortly. And then, Matt, I'll be looking at some of those other power outage reports, Prentiss County, EPA, and up there towards Union County, too, as we head through the rest of our evening.
Go ahead and fix that then. Okay, appreciate that, Gabe. We're trying to get some video in of one of these storms, so Emily is getting fixing my spelling error on that, so we'll hopefully have that up and ready to go here in just a second for you guys. But Gabe, go to Chroma for just a second so I can finish this up, please.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to send it over to Chroma.
Perfect. Sounds good. So continuing to keep eyes on this storm, and allow me to shut the door here behind the scenes. We're keeping the studio cool, because if you stayed dry today, it was the heat that was a big concern. And so far here in Tupelo, we stayed dry, and not the story really anymore, as that storm has moved on through, giving us at least one positive in rain-cooled air. But I know the utmost concern right now goes with our hail potential, and also goes with some of those stronger wind gusts. And one note that I want to say, you see Frog Island there. As we move just south and east of Frog Island, look at those darker purples. That's where we enter from the possible category more towards the probable category. And that's really when the concern starts to climb for any of that large hail, up to 1 inch in diameter. And as that approached Frog Island, we did get reports of about dime to nickel-sized hail. We'll look at Frog Island kind of on the outskirts there. So potentially, as this was lifted up, it could have been dumped more towards Frog Island. And luckily in Saltillo, we're not getting as strong of those reports. So hopefully that does mean that our hail potential might be coming down. But Matt, with the lightning increasing, this is still a storm to pay attention to.
Absolutely. Here's an example of what some of that hail does look like out there. This video sent in from Susan and Natural Trace Golf Course. Again, we're not talking about huge hail. I mean, I see a couple of stones there that could potentially be up around maybe nickel size. Most of that looks like pea-size hail. This would be kind of on the east side of where that storm was the heaviest there. Yeah, that's not exactly in the most impactful portion of it, but a sign that certainly these storms are going to be capable of some hail. But that's also a sign of just what happens when it's as warm as it is out there, as a lot of that hail gets kind of eaten up by some of the warmth as it attempts to fall down to the ground. So come back here into the Weather Center this evening. Again, there are a few other storms out there that we're continuing to track. One that's fairly heavy out here closer to Winona as well. They're just kind of between Vaden and Kilmichael. One little spot where we do again have some hail probably falling out of this one here and some strong gusty winds. That again just south of 82 there, kind of moving toward the north and east. As that does, again, going to continue to probably produce some hail for a few locations. Get this into motion here. That's the thing. These haven't always been super well behaved on how quick they move. They're typically moving very, very slow. Like this one, if I put, man, I'd overdo it to put 17 miles per hour on that hail core there. Hendricks at 530. But that's one of the directions where this is going as well. Let's see if I pop that back to there. There we go. So looking again toward Hendricks, where we're looking at that kind of moving toward the north and east. But that's not as impressive as some of the other thunderstorms. We're looking out here toward a Water Valley. Again, heavy rainfall with this one back toward Charleston as well. Some gusty winds out of these. Moderate rainfall, really kind of the worst of what that's going to produce. But coming back up here again, our storm that's probably the strongest at this point. I will say, if it's produced that large hail, it's probably largely dropped out of it in the last 10 minutes or so. I think that this is a little bit weaker than it was. Again, we'll check our chat with you guys, see what you guys are seeing at this point here. Haven't had a drop of rainfall at 371 there in Amory. Hey, listen, there are a lot of folks that have been in that category recently. We're stuck at Love's on I-22, and it was hailing. Wind was crazy, according to Misty there. Appreciate that report. Glad you're okay. Hailing on me in a Saltillo pea-size hail, according to Haley Ross there in Saltillo with this. And as you see beside me here, we'll go ahead and kind of cut this in to where it is showing the most intense stuff, kind of the west side of Saltillo, where that is the case. But if we go back a little bit, you can tell how this was considerably stronger just a little bit ago. And while still maybe producing some spotty hail, is not as impressive in that category as of now. Continuing to move northward, we'll continue to kind of track these storms as they move in that direction there. And we're going to get some things organized here behind the scenes. We're going to take a brief break, and we'll be back with news and more weather coverage. So you're watching Mississippi Live here at 5. I'm Chief Meteorologist Matt Lawpon alongside our meteorologist Gabe Maynor. More after this.
When C.K. Little opened his doors in downtown Corinth nearly 80 years ago, his plan was simple: deliver excellent service and exceed expectations. That's why we say a little gift goes a long way.
Dust off your favorite shotgun and sign up for the Natchez Trace Council Clay Classic. Call 662-842-2871 or visit natcheztracecouncil.org.
Friday, August 21st, don't miss the Tupelo Super Show benefiting St. Jude, featuring the legends of Memphis Wrestling. Reserve your seat right now at memphiswrestling.tv.
Hello, everyone, and good evening to you. Thank you for joining us here on Mississippi Live. I'm Emily Leonard. Well, mystery solved. The $200 million mystery expansion in the Golden Triangle has been revealed. What is it? Southwire is expanding operations in Starkville, creating 128 new jobs and investing $256 million. But what's Southwire? Well, it's one of North America's largest wire and cable manufacturers. They make electrical wire, cables, and cords. The company is going to expand its plant there in Starkville by 380,000 square feet. Southwire moved into Starkville in 1989, and this is their second expansion. The former assistant police chief in Okolona pleaded guilty to embezzlement in Calhoun County courtroom today. Deputies arrested Sherry Hardin back in April and charged her with one count of embezzlement. Monday, she pleaded guilty to that charge, and now she's on probation for 5 years. Now, sources tell Mississippi Live she allegedly failed to return guns owned by the police department. Ackerman residents will go to the polls tomorrow to decide on a 2% food and beverage tax. Money raised by this tax will be used for the Parks and Recreation Department. Specifically, that includes the Sportsplex. This is the second time for this particular referendum. Back in June, you may remember that issue showed very strong support, but it fell by 2 votes. Just 2 votes short of the necessary 60% to pass. So tomorrow, Tuesday, voters will cast their ballots again. You can cast your ballot from 7 in the morning to 7 at night at the Town Hall on Main Street. Thank you, everyone, for joining us here on Mississippi Live. I'm Emily Leonard. Have a great night.
Reserve your St. Jude Dream Home giveaway ticket by August 28th, and you'll be eligible to win the house and the bonus prize, a 2026 Polar Ranger, courtesy of Dream Day Foundation. Visit dreamhome.org or call 1-800-456-8351 to reserve your ticket today.
Have you ever helped a fellow veteran?
Of course.
Yes. Have you ever asked for help yourself?
It's always tough, right? I always feel like I can solve my own problems, but eventually, you just can't deal with it on your own.
And you start to question, maybe people would be better off without me. And you realize that you're not alone. Once you take that first step, there's so much support.
Right now, from the Mississippi Live Weather Center, here's Mississippi's Chief Meteorologist, Matt Laubheim.
Deep in the rain, the heavy rain there in Greenwood. You're watching Mississippi Live. Our meteorologist Gabe Maynor also watching what you guys are showing here across North Mississippi. And unfortunately, Gabe, that means a lot of power outages that are starting to add up. Lee County, one of the harder hit areas so far. We're going to check some other locations in a moment, but let's get an update on those power outages.
Well, it's not just power outages that I'm covering, Matt. It's also going to be some of the wind damage reports potentially. And this is what I believe is a large contributor to those outages there in northern Lee County, just northwest of there is Saltillo. 405 outages to report in that bulk of pink, and then about 132 as you continue to move a little bit more northwest. That'd be along 348, now trying to get more towards Union County. Nonetheless, talking to a few of my neighbors over there, they said the wind just increased to where my wife said about 60 miles an hour, and she's been through plenty of storms. So, talking about winds getting up to that speed, that's where you talk about the downburst potential with this. And we saw it on the video. That's probably where it occurred. So this would have been just northwest of Saltillo, where these outages are lining up to where it made driving hazardous, knocked out a ton of power. As Annalise put it, we don't know where our garbage can is right now, so we'll see how that goes here in a moment. But yeah, the loose items in the yard, Matt, the biggest things that can be vulnerable to the strong wind gusts, but if you're talking 50, 60 miles an hour, that can be damaging. And so far, we've not gotten any of those damage reports, but that also might be due to the fact there's not a lot of power whenever those power outages do go out.
And again, we don't expect it to be widespread. Everybody gets damaged, but some sporadic reports of
Mhm.
damage in this kind of situation possible. Camera in Guntown, as you can see there behind me, was one of them that we've been watching throughout the afternoon so far, with the heavy rainfall moving into that location. No official severe thunderstorm warnings on any of these storms, but certainly they have been pretty heavy. Here's a video sent in by using the Mississippi Live app just a few minutes ago. Jaden Perry with this shot here again. A lot of heavy rainfall. A lot of wind on that as well. Again, you can use the Mississippi Live app to share your videos with us, iOS and Android devices. Probably the easiest ways to do that. Appreciate the thousands of you, hundreds of thousands of you that do have those different apps there, and appreciate that picture, that video coming in just a couple minutes ago. So the storm there in Guntown that kind of moved through the Saltillo area continues to again move northward. One of the things when we were tracking it a few minutes ago, we said, hey, it might be 5:30 before it moves into Baldwin. But what instead has happened is it's developed northward into Baldwin over that point in time there as it's moved northward. So yeah, definitely causing some issues there with gusty winds, a heavy rainfall as well. Let me check here real quick. Yeah, some folks that we know back in West Tuflo mentioned there's several branches down back toward Butler Road on this, and power out on that side of town in a fairly significant way. Your reports appreciated, and drop those in the chat. They gave us the latest on those as well. Pea-sized hail near Guntown on exit on 45 there. Hi, y'all, and Solgent. Hope you're doing all right. Looks like a few folks there missed the hail, and hopefully that's the case for more than just a couple of folks. Let's go on the wide shot here. And let's slide down to Winona. That's one of the storms I was watching during the commercial break a couple minutes ago there. Kind of approaching Kilmichael, close to Winona. Let's check our camera there in Winona for a moment, and we'll slide over to Ackerman, get another shot from the opposite direction on this here. Of course, the heavy rainfall, 91 feels like 102, waiting on that next update there. Obviously steamy and hot. That's helping to bubble up these showers and thunderstorms and cause some of the issues that we have had so far today. Sliding over to the Ackerman area, our camera there. Looks like I might have some smoke there toward the horizon, kind of behind me on that. That's kind of what that sort of looks like there. Let's go ahead and swing our camera around back into the thunderstorm. So we'll have to take it more toward the northwest and west. And there we go. That's that storm approaching the Winona area. Dark blue indicates a lot of heavy rainfall falling out of this thunderstorm there. And so, yeah, that's fairly rough. Someone asking, I want to answer this real quick here. You get out there beyond 7 days, and I have our app to show you the model data once we get beyond 7 days, mentioning that those high temperatures are really high. You start looking at that 10-day forecast, they get really, really, really high. Heat indices are going to be dangerously hot the next week or so, and that's the other part of the forecast we'll discuss in a lot more detail coming up here in a couple of minutes. Once we're done kind of tracking some of these thunderstorms here. So that 1 near 82, again, lifting northward. These are not fast movers. None of these are. Only about 10 to 12 miles per hour. So usually we do a lot more tracking than this. But the fact is Minerva, we're looking at 533 for you. Sugar Hill, 539. Cedar Hill, 544. Lodi, about 545. But that is a storm that is at this point below severe limits, and that's the way I describe most of these thunderstorms. I mean, even the storm we had up here closer to the Tupelo area, technically, if we only get nickel-sized hail, that's not severe hail technically, but I do think that we probably got at least some 45 to 55 mile per hour wind gusts as it collapsed there. And to answer Alyssa May's question there, no tornadoes out of this here, but Alpine has wind and thunder. That's northern part of Lee County there. The far northwest corner, power flickering in and around that location as well. So another one we're tracking here, Greenwood. We're looking at that for 520 for you. Of course, that's pretty much over top of you right now. Craigside, 531. We're looking at Money, about 544 there. The Watley area at about 602 as it continues to head northward. Let's go on the wide shot here for a moment. See if there's any other big ones. You know, the one that also catches my eye out here, we've got a couple either side of Charleston as well. The one on the north side of Charleston there, a little bit heavier. Make this a 1 hour loop here. See if we can actually get some motion on that, sort of lifting this batch, lifting northward. So it won't be everybody that I'm tracking here on this, but the fact we have, you know, some of these that are heavier along this line. I'll track kind of the whole batch there northward. And again, 15 miles per hour is too fast, but Chansey we show now. At Tealsdale, we're looking at about 525. Allen, 528. Crowder at 549. 601 Pope. Toowoomba there at about 608, and Cortland by about 612. And appreciate all of our sponsors. You see there on the bottom of the screen, like Tupelo Home Center, which sponsors a number of things here on Mississippi Live. I'm proud to be partnering with them and a lot of other folks that have stepped out in faith to work with us here on Mississippi Live. Storm up here in Boonville continues to go through a bit of a weakening phase as it continues kind of sliding northward there. And as I come back south, looks like the Golden Triangle, which was a lot rougher earlier on, has gotten better, though we did again get one report of wind damage there, official report of a tin roof that was on a structure that was near Indian Mound Campground that was damaged. That, of course, coming in via social media. Again, you share those pictures with us, and we appreciate you for doing that. We'll check back in on all the damage and everything here in just a moment. Let's go ahead and get you through what resembles a forecast here if we can. So hour-by-hour forecast into this evening has those temperatures going from the 90s-ish where we're at now to around the 80-degree point, with heat indices still around 90 by 10, 78 by 1 o'clock in the morning as rain coverage diminishes into this evening. So spotty storms, you can see generally speaking about where they are fairly well projected on here. It doesn't have that one up north of Tupelo very well, but as you can see, the overall coverage of storms decreasing. A couple of these may be still heavy enough to kick out a few hailstones or some strong wind gusts, but in general, again, most below severe limits. And you can see 8:30, 9 o'clock, those were all mainly gone. Not expecting it to be quite as impressive for tomorrow. Overnight, though, as you can see, 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, we are relatively dry all across the region. So lows tomorrow starting off in the middle 70s for most spots, putting us about 2 to 3 degrees above where we typically should be for this time of the year, with the warmest locations in the Delta. Our IMPC school day forecast on your Tuesday from 76 in the morning to 91 by lunch, and we'll be in the mid-90s, feeling like it's over 105 to 110 once again for tomorrow afternoon. It will be sultry, it will be hot, but it will be drier in all likelihood. Notice here on Futurecast, we don't have nearly the quantity of storms. I do think it might be underdoing it just a little bit for tomorrow. I think a few spotty storms, certainly greater coverage out into Alabama, out into Georgia, locations back to the east of us. The primary severe weather risk for tomorrow is up here closer to this front in the Midwest, and that, of course, is not over top of us. So if we avoid those storms, then we're just left to the devices of the heat, and that's going to be an issue with heat indices expected to be, actual temperatures, mid-90s. It's going to feel like it's over 105 for pretty much all locations. Peak location, Clarksdale at 110, 106 for Cleveland, but just as hot as that in Houston and Tupelo and Bruce, coming in around 106 degrees for each of those locations. So heat advisories in effect for a lot of spots tomorrow, and possibly expanding versus where they are today. Of course, you'll get those alerts in the Mississippi Live app. I'll let you know the latest on all of that. Tomorrow evening, couples pop-up showers still possible, maybe 9 to 10 o'clock, just a sign that we have the heat, we have the moisture, and from time to time, that'll mean we have the storm chances to go along with those two things here. As we head into your Wednesday evening, late Wednesday night, not expecting to see much. A little hotter in the Delta, practically 80 for some low temperatures. That's when you know we are in a very rough pattern, and that's where we're going to be for early Wednesday morning as the heat continues to build. Rough in the hot standpoint, not necessarily rough from severe weather or anything like that. Because as you can see here, we're mainly dry again, even into Wednesday afternoon. Most of the storm chances out to the east of us into Alabama. We're going to be begging for some rainfall, something to cool us down, because those temperatures keep getting hotter day by day. Tomorrow, again, mid-90s, will be upper 90s, actual temperatures to near the triple-digit point out here in the Delta. And you factor in that humidity, and it's going to feel just as hot. We'll say best case scenario, 106 in Amory or 107 in Starkville for those heat indices by Wednesday afternoon. And looking toward Thursday, it's more of the same. Almost didn't look like the graphic changed, except if you're looking in Clarksdale and Tunica, clearly changed. Even hotter there for those spots. 112 in Clarksdale for what it'll probably feel like by Thursday afternoon. So dangerous heat building, more heat advisories, more excessive heat warnings, probably back in the forecast by then. As you can see, look at that 7-day forecast. We're probably less than 20% on that rain coverage for your Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, into this upcoming weekend. Fairly dry with temperatures in the upper 90s to near the 100-degree point. And that's before you ever factor in the possibility that we're going to see heat indices that are probably 110 to 115 some spots. So it will get rough. Speaking of rough, I want to bring Gabe back in here for a moment as he has been checking in on the updates related to all of those power outages. Gabe, it does look like things have not improved much.
Yeah, not much, but I do want to say some power updates. The number kind of remaining the same there in Lee County, and a positive coming out of Prentiss County is the fact that not a ton of reports. So this has shown a weakening phase on this thunderstorm. So we're hopeful that those reports remain a little bit more minimal. But as we talked about a little bit earlier on, down there towards the 4-county electric coverage area, that includes parts of Oktibbeha and Lowndes County, crews are responding. 4-county putting out a statement earlier on saying, hey, there's 1,000 outages. It takes a second to cover everybody, but that number has really come down. We're at 387, and at the start of about 3 o'clock or so, it was at 999, so clearing up about 600 reports there. So that's a positive. But going back to the updates, we do unfortunately have an increasing number there in Panola County of about 68 outages with 83 members affected in its entire coverage area. That with folks there at Tallahatchie Valley Electric Power Association. So as those storms start to pop up and bubble up in your typical summer pattern, a few of those strikes going to unfortunately cause some outages, but also some of those stronger winds. It wouldn't be shocking to see some winds get up there 40, 50 miles an hour at times as those extend across Panola County, even towards Lafayette, and as well as Yallowbush, seeing about 7 outages there just west of Coffeyville and just east of Oakland, another report there. So sporadic reports, Matt, that continues to be the story, but I would say that if we're talking a highest number for the day, it so far has been the Tom Bigby Electric Power Association. So I know folks there are going to be very busy through the evening and overnight hours.
Absolutely trying to get that back on. And hopefully it's just, sometimes in this situation when you have large numbers that go down at the same time, it's something big that everyone gets on, they can put it back and everyone gets on fairly quickly. So hopefully that's the way it is where they go down in a large number, but they also come back on in a large number.
And you want it on before that heat really starts to build through the week. So I know folks there are rooting for that air conditioner to come back on here soon.
It will. It'll be back on soon. That's for sure. Appreciate that. Hey, we do have a video coming in. Our Emily Leonard has got put together behind the scenes here for us. A video that someone sent in again to the building storms there. Abigail Robinson with this shot here of one of those very impressive thunderstorms as it kind of built. We're going to re-rack that again for you there. Again, some of these storms again are really bubbling up and certainly trying to produce some active weather. The spots we're looking at right now in particular out here in the Delta and near it from Water Valley up here, the southeast Lafayette County, as Gabe was mentioning, stretching back out here into Tallahatchie County. That one that's, again, close to the Allen area, as we check our True Shield hail swath, does show maybe just a little bit. I'm going to switch this over to the Memphis radar, just double check. Those aren't showing up quite as impressive. And even on the wide shot there, it's pretty clear where we had some of the more impressive hail returns. Again, that was that one where we had quite a few hail returns there in and around Lee County a little bit ago, stretching up towards South Tillow. See some good news next to me. Alicia says the power now coming back on in the Belden area. Good to hear that. Been without that for just over an hour in the Belden area. So I'm glad that is back up and running and working for you there. Again, a reminder, no tornadoes out of this setup. And honestly, the storms versus an hour ago do look weaker, though. Still, again, showing them moving north. You can notice how, as we look at our True Shield hail track here, and if you do have hailstones in excess of 1 inch in size, let us know using the Mississippi Live app. If you have the largest hailstone to report there, then what happens is you could end up getting a $100 gift card paid for by True Shield Roofing to Walmart. You can basically use it anywhere. But looking back here, you'll notice that the hail kind of stops progressing in any meaningful way beyond around 448 or so there. So a sign that the biggest of this, we're about 45 minutes from that. So that storm is largely, even though we do have some rainfall that has kind of lingered behind that, that storm is nowhere near as impressive as it was just a little bit ago, despite the fact it's moving again closer to Boonville. Up in the Boonville area, our camera there with the North Mississippi Storm Chasers, we'll kind of check that one out. Looking up toward that one, and we'll kind of look also from the Iuka area back into that thunderstorm there. Again, in the rainfall, it's a lot of heavy rain. So even if it's not severe, yes, it's going to be some 30, 40 mile per hour wind gusts on the high end there if those storms are able to kind of be capable of producing that. But certainly some gusty winds on that one at this time. Our camera brought to you by Farmers and Merchants Bank up in Iuka. At an angle there where you can see the sun still solidly out in the Iuka area, but the storm's certainly bubbling up there as well. I'm going to pan this again a little bit up so you can sort of see that group of thunderstorms moving there closer to Boonville at this point. Again, Woodall Mountain in the background there is all kind of moving toward the north. I don't think it's necessarily going to come directly into Iuka, but certainly west of town where you'll see some bigger issues. And I don't know that, again, we're going to see a ton there in Tishomingo County related to that as well. Let's bring Gabe back in here for a moment. Looks like he does have some additional pictures to share that you guys have frankly shared with him in the Mississippi Live app, and appreciate you guys for doing that there. Gabe, where are we looking?
So this would be in Saltillo, right along Euclatuba Road. You can see that the large branch snapped and unfortunately broke, and does look like that it's going to require some cleanup. But send in those pictures through the Mississippi Live Weather app, free and available on iOS and Android, and lets us know what's happening and lets the National Weather Service know what's happening as well. Those reports going right along and helping them understand what these storms are capable of, because those summer storms, very cyclical, and in one moment they're damaging, another moment they're collapsing. So it shows the story there. But I appreciate that photo, and continue to watch the chats just in case more are on the way, Matt. So we'll let you know if that happens.
Okay, I appreciate that. And I do think we'll probably wind things down here in just a moment as we kind of wind down our typical broadcast. We'll give you a one over on everything just to make sure there's nothing that is imminently producing damaging weather. These storms, again, from time to time, I say that, and you can have lightning damage out of any of these storms. There's a decent amount of lightning out there. Storms in Choctaw County, really they're, I guess, west of Choctaw County there in Montgomery County, lifting northward. But on this entire shot here, only 750, I think it's 741 on the number of lightning strikes. That is down from where things were an hour ago here when on some of the stronger of those thunderstorms. So I think the overall coverage has increased, but the intensity of the peak storms has continued to decrease. So we're going to watch things. If we do think we're going to get some more of these producing some wind damage and some other issues like that, we'll be right back on like we were just a few minutes ago as we had that storm move through the west border of Lee County. Of course, we're watching for folks in the Delta, Tallahatchie County and such. We'll look in more detail at that again as necessary at 6 o'clock as we break down warming trend that unfortunately is just going to get hotter and hotter and hotter. Thank you so much for supporting us here on Mississippi Live. Hopefully that power comes back out for you. And to answer Matt Ray, who wanted to know, was there a tornado in Starkville and just south of West Point area yesterday? No tornadoes. We do get some damaging wind from time to time, but no tornadoes out of these storms the last couple of days. Thankfully, that is not the way in which these work out in this situation. Okay, we'll see you come up at 6.
Growing up, Gabe was naturally curious. When he began to discover weather, Gabe just didn't want to know what was happening, but he wanted to know why it was happening. Gabe became fascinated with tornadoes, and it impacted his life. He wanted to pursue a career in meteorology. Even though Gabe grew up in Alabama, Mississippi has now become his home and his family. And one thing about Gabe is he keeps his family safe.